Good evening, Pathfinder and Scouting leaders. It's ESO Vernon here. This is my first official video. The last one was just telling you I was going to do this. Welcome to my series of fireside leadership discussions. Don't have a fire going behind me today. Sabbath afternoon. I've been doing online honors for the kids all day and getting stuff prepped and going, and of course, worship this morning and everything. So really wasn't quite into bonfiring it tonight, but we're still lounging around here, and I'm going to take some time to talk to you about my first subject, and that is knots. Now, when I'm moving around and going around, visiting the clubs and the kids, it's pretty common that I have kids go, "Oh, I'm not looking forward to next week." Like, what's next week? "Oh, we got to do our knots." You're like, "Oh, that's no big deal. What do you mean you got to do your knots?" "Oh, we got to do 10 knots or 15 knots, 20 knots." And you're like, "Oh, well, it's not so bad." And then you get leaders, I talk to them like, "Oh, we still got our knots to do this year." And I'm like, "What, your knots to do this year?" "Yeah, I think we'll do it next week or the week after." Not looking forward to it. I'm remembering all those knots and showing the kids all those knots, and I can't remember how to tie half of them, and the kids don't want to do them all. The knots. I'm like, stop. Time out, everybody. Knots are an essential part of scouting. Doesn't matter if you're doing Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Pathfinders. Knots are a core of what we do. We are outdoors people, outdoor survival people. A lot of our games and stuff at camporees and stuff, you gotta know how to tie things, and lashing and making litters, and like chariot races and stuff. Shelters. You can make a much nicer shelter if you know how to tie a lot of different knots. Lash a chair and make your director sit in it. I mean, that's a lot of knot tying there. If you're dreading knots and your kids are dreading knots, this is a bad combination. Now, some clubs it's not a problem. They're happy to do their knots. They're happy to teach knots. Maybe you have a really good knot leader, but maybe you're not one of these good knot leaders. You haven't figured it out yet. You're the one that I'm really talking to today. And here's what I'm going to share with you. My secret to not having a knot problem. This is how I do my clubs. When I'm a director, what I do is I have a bucket of rope by the door or by the assembly area, depending if I'm inside, outside, whatever, right? And as the kids come into formation in opening ceremonies, my kids, they pull a rope out, and usually they flop it over their neck, just like that. They come in, we do our pledges and laws, we do our dues, we sing the song, maybe we do our devotional. We do all of that, and when we're done with our opening ceremonies, the kids still have their rope, and we're still in formation. Maybe when we went to the devotional, I had them, sit down. I usually like a big crescent circle. The kids sit cross-legged. Makes a good presentation thing. But I usually still have them separated out by unit, and they're still sort of roughly in the formation when they started, actually. Because I don't want to let go of them completely. I don't want the kids running off, having to get back control of them again. Kids, each one with a piece of rope. Just use your imagination, the things they're probably going to try to do with them, and you're probably right. I certainly know half the kids I worked with certainly tried stuff with them, and being leaders, we got to guide them, right? And what I'll do is I'll ask the kids, can anybody remember what knot I said we're working with this week? And I always end my meeting with, next week's knot will be. So I may tell them next week's knot will be a sheet bend knot. And the kids will go, okay, and I will demonstrate it quickly. And I'll tell the kids, hey, here's where you can find it online. You can find videos, whatever. Make sure you practice. At the beginning of the year, when they get their packet for the year, I try to make sure they all have a piece of rope, so they're good to go. They can practice at home. Most kids have a shoelace or a string or rope already at home. But you want to make sure they're ready with a good rope. I like a nice thicker rope. This is a 5/8 poly rope. Burn the edges so it's nice. They can hold it in their hands. And then, oh, sorry, this is 3/8 poly. My bad. And what I do is just make sure they practice every week. They know what websites they can go. I teach them, go on YouTube, find videos how to tie the knot. They need to practice. When they get back to that next meeting, though, I expect them to know how to tie the knot. So they're going to come into the meeting, and I say, who numbers how to tie a sheet bend knot, or whatever knot we're doing. One of the stopper knots, or maybe even a bowline. Everyone wants to do the bowline since got made famous in the Desmond Doss series, right? And the kids come in, maybe we're doing hunter bow knots, just whatever knot it is, and I go, who can tie it? And let's say it's hunter bow knot. The older ones, they just give me the knot just that fast, right? And, your middle-aged kids, they're like, yeah, let's see, I need a loop and another loop, and I'm remembered, yay! And, of course, then your youngest kids are like, it has to go over and under, and there was this loop thing. Yeah, there's a loop. Oh, 2 loops, and it goes around, because the director said it's like my shoes, and they're like, is that it? And like, yeah, that's close. Yeah, you got there. And of course, then you got the real youngest kids who, they're like, it involved loops? Don't know. I'm clueless. Sorry, director. Like, that's okay. That's okay. We don't make a big issue out of it. So what I do is the older kids got it, because they've been with me for several years usually. I ask the older kids to pair off with the younger kids. And they're going to go over to wherever in the formation the younger kids are. And they're going to sit down and help them, like, okay, you got to cross this rope, hold it here, make a loop, go around, and they're going to walk them through it one step at a time. My kids in the middle age group, those kids, they just need a little practice, a little confidence, right? So they're like, yeah, you got it, that's perfect. Tie it one more time, see if you can get it quicker, smoother, and you tie it 3 or 4 times, and they're, quick and slick pretty fast, right? And they're holding it up, yay, director, I got my knot. And they're all like, yay, see, I got mine. I was the 5th one today to get mine the fastest. I'm better than you guys. Remind them, hey, this isn't a competition. Good job, right? But pretty soon, everybody can tie and untie the knot. Even a friend who's only been there for a few weeks can untie and tie the knot with a little help, right? But then what I do, I ask them, what do we use this knot for? Why do you use a Packer's knot? Well, Packer's knot is awesome for doing packages, right? You loop that loop over, you go around, you come up, you cinch that thing down. My grandmother used to be able to nail a package so fast, but, she was born around the turn of the century, so she wasn't, she didn't know there was things called packing tape. She still tied her packages with a string because you knew people weren't getting into her packages. You don't see that anymore today. Mail, you just see Amazon boxes, right? Why do you use a bow knot? Well, because it's, you can cinch it down, you can untie it. What we use in our shoes, we can think of different places we can use a bow knot. Sheet bend knot. Why do we tie sheet bend knots? Well, ropes of different sizes so you can hook them together. Well, what scenario can we use it in? The kids brainstorm some different ideas. Trailer load came loose. We got to tie this extra piece of rope in to get it down, but it's not the same size or same type, so we use it. Whatever it is, we brainstorm it around. The kids can't come up with some ideas, I pitch in a few. Usually the older kids have been there for a while. They got it, right? They remember you said last year, and if they don't, it's in the back of their mind, so you start talking, and pretty soon they remember, oh yeah, didn't you say last year? And they're good to go. And of course the younger kids, they're listening. The kids in the middle, they may or may not remember it, depending. But now we got a progression going. So my youngest kids are being taught the knot. My middle kids are being reminded of the knot because they probably did it the last year. And my older kids, they got it. They've been doing it for years. Especially when you're in your 6th year of Pathfinders, and if you've been with me the whole time, you got 6 years of doing that knot every year, right? And those kids are helping teach the younger kids. Now, when you look at the curriculum, there is a knot tying requirement. So instead of sitting down going, oh, we're going to learn your 10 knots for this year, or you're going to do your 15 or your 20, or oh, you got to help teach knots, so I'm going to sit you down to help teach the 10, the 20, whatever. It's now just part of my meeting. It's part of my flow, okay? My kids tie knots because that's what we do in scouting. We tie knots. So my Pathfinder club, we just tie knots, and the kids just knots become part of what we do. And I get my assistant directors, some of the senior counselors, even some of the older kids to lead out in those knots. So it's not just me, because we want them all to. But now you're not going, oh, I can't remember how to teach 20 knots. All you got to remember is next week's knot. That's all you got to remember is one knot. Week to week, one knot. Maybe the family of knots, so you got 3 or 4. Some of the stopper knots are all the same except for an extra bind on them or extra twist. You can do 3 or 4 of those, it's a family of knots, right? But, you just got to remember to put an extra twist in it. Not hard to remember. So now for your club, knots haven't become a torturous meeting. It's just become a fun thing we do regularly. Now, when I take my kids out on campouts and meet and stuff, and we're preparing, I don't teach my kids, okay, we got to learn these 5 new knots because we're doing X, Y, Z, or okay, kids, we got to learn this knot and this knot because we're doing shelter building at the next fair. I go, okay, kids, we're next fair we're doing a shelter building exercise. Now, you guys remember how these usually I have to ask them, hey, we're doing shelter building, what knots do you guys think we need? They almost always tell me. And if not, I can poke them a little bit and hint, like, hey, what kind of knot do you think we need to tie it around the tree or the pole? What kind of knot do you think maybe take a bind off a corner of canvas? Now, usually if they don't get it immediately, if I start hinting what the knot's going to be used for, it jogs their memory and oh yeah, okay, we needed this knot or that knot. And poof, they're good to go. If we're doing lashing, it doesn't take them long to remember or what squares they need and clove hitches and stuff. Because we've done those before and we've talked about why and when we need them. When we get to camporee, doing entranceways, the last camporee I was a director, I had a bundle of wood and I told the kids we need to make something like this. I'm like, we need uprights and it needs to go across and it needs to be stable out here. I handed them a bucket of stakes, a bucket of rope, a bundle of stuff, and I mainly had Voyagers and Rangers that year. And I had a friend and companion in there. You usually get spread, but my clump was in the middle and a little towards the older side, and they just lashed that thing up in probably about 45 minutes. They hooked it all over. There was a few kids like, I think my clove hitch isn't going right, and you look at it like, remember to flip them both to the inside. Oh, that's right. I couldn't believe I had that wrong. But they had it so done so fast, and the other clubs were showing up all afternoon. And there was clubs that they had their lights on, and people were telling, turn off your generators, because they were trying to put up their entranceway still. And their master guides are having to do it for them. The kids had no clue what knots to even use. But because knots are part of my club culture, it just became, hey, we're going to throw this up. We're going to tie some knots. The kids already knew the knots. And we were done. Our kids were having just fun running around, meeting new friends. They weren't worrying about it. So, the big thing is about knots is don't make it a theme of any meeting. Never, ever, ever. Just make it part of your club culture. Tying knots is part of scouting culture, so it should be part of your club culture. You should tie knots every meeting. And just do one. And if you don't know any knots and you're like a new young director, this is perfect for you, because now one of the entire lines on your requirement cards, when you're looking at them, you go, oh, how am I going to do all this? Tie one knot a meeting. It'll never overwhelm you. And when it comes to splicing and make the ropes at the end for the last part of the honor, making the rope, just make it a fun activity, just like a craft type thing later in the year after you're a little more confident. And enjoy all that free time I just saved up for yourself to do other coursework, like trying to get them to memorize their Bible verses. I'll talk about a way to help with that one in some other video, though. I hope you guys are having a good Sabbath afternoon, and I'll see you next time at my fireside. And remember, you can email me or post in the chat ideas you want me to talk about on other meetings, or if you want my advice on anything, just let me know. And I am Esau Vernon, the Club Ministry Director for the Nevada-Utah Conference, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.